Informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. My name is Ivan Khanna, the lovely Gleneva Hodge. We are your hosts for this show, these regular updates and conversations from the Government Information Service. This is now this is the second to last episode in this season. I don't even know the numbers. I don't even know the numbers right now. You know we have a forecasted break next week during the summer festival, and then we'll be back with even more content. We got some surprises for you coming up, but we have with us, I get to use this again. I only got to use it once, but back for the very first time in a new role with new frills, but she still does do the thing for me again. I gotta love her. Trust me, I have the utmost respect for this young lady because she wears her heart on her sleeve and what she says she means. And we're gonna get into her new role today. We have the now Minister of Sustainability. I should know this. I should know this. Innovation.
Natural resources?
No.
We getting it wrong?
Tell me what it is.
Oh, man.
Environment.
Yeah. Yeah, we got it. So it's environment, sustainability, and innovation.
Sustainability, innovation, and the environment.
So, I have this thing with
SIE.
Yeah, why SIE? Why not IES?
I'll tell you off screen. Lots of thought went into the order. And the order is the order.
So tell me what thought went into the order. No? Okay. So we're gonna jump into it. We tend to laugh a lot when this young minister is around. I can call her a young minister, because she's actually a young minister. I didn't realize you were so young until you said it the other day. Mm-hmm. But you're making leaps and bounds. It's progress all the way. So we're going to talk about sustainability. We're going to talk about environment.
And innovation.
Great.
I got a big question to start with, though.
Let's go.
How's it in the new role?
It's bittersweet under the circumstances.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the sweet moments was that when I was getting sworn in, my dad was there.
Uh-huh.
And when I was being sworn in as PALSEC, he was away for medical reasons. So that was an emotional moment to have him there.
Okay.
And a lot of the work that I'm doing now is work that I was doing as PALSEC. So in terms of the transition, it's a very comfortable transition,
yes.
But limited time because we're in the middle of the term, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a rush to get the things that I've been working on from before, yes, and change some of the priorities and move forward.
So you're going to give us some exclusives today because I know there's a lot on the table.
Yes.
One?
Oh, no.
High five. We get an exclusive today. One exclusive we get today. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's interesting and it's very good having you back here. Uh-huh. Minister Gums Marie. I actually like the ring to that. Minister Gums Marie. I told her so when I called her the other day.
Minister Gums Marie.
Yes. We had the Minister of Infrastructure and Tourism.
Yes, back with us.
Well, I want to get there a little bit. I thought that tourism would have been a natural move for you as well. He said he offered it and you dropped the ball and he decided. he decided his was where you dropped it and he caught it and so,
yeah.
It's sacrifices for the team. Teamwork makes the dream work. So, in my perfect world, yes, but also I have a lot to do with the new ministry because it is a new ministry, a new configuration, which includes building a new department in renewable energy development. Okay. So, there's lots of work to do, and with tourism being the main driver, I know that I can do it, but I don't want to have to spread myself too thin. Okay. And Minister Hughes, as you know, that's his baby, that's his joy. He comes from the industry. He has lots of connections,
Yeah.
a wealth of knowledge, and I work with him still. You know, if there's anything that we need to do, we're still a team, we still collaborate, but it's best to leave that where it was.
Okay.
And I definitely support all of the development that he has, we have done together thus far, and all the things that are to come. So that's very exciting.
But when I hear your ministries, I almost see environment, sustainability, and innovation as being the bedrock for tourism.
At the bridge.
You used to be the bridge. The
Still
bridge is
am.
the
Still am.
go on with your bad self.
Don't take that title.
Okay, I wondered, you know, since we have no minister, I'm wondering if you were taking away
Minister,
bridge, but
yeah,
you're
she's
saying
still
that
a bridge.
you're saying that they're still connected.
Yes.
There's still that collaborative effort that
For sure.
exists between. That's really good to hear. Innovation. This is something that is completely new. While sustainability, yes, we've been hearing sustainability, and it wasn't necessarily on ministry and environment, but that tied in with natural resources. Innovation seems to be very new. Tell us a little bit about that aspect of your ministry.
Well, when it comes to the naming of the ministry, I got the ability to name it myself. So
wow, that's
it
nice.
was something that was deeply personal to me, and I think it was where I would like to see Anguilla go into the future. So I would hope that if it is us next time around after 2025, that this ministry remains. If it's someone else, that this ministry remains, because it shows Anguilla's priority in development. Innovation is something that I thought better described the aspirations I have for the Department of Information Technology, e-government services. Where you kind of put that at the heart of development, because we want to be able to be more accessible to the citizenry of the country, and to ensure that the process of interacting with government becomes more seamless and easier over time. So naming that innovation sort of prioritizes that aspiration. The department is still the same, the department head is still the same, the work is still the same, but now we are prioritizing e-government services as we develop sustainably as well, because that will then support the sustainable development of government.
Okay, now that you've mentioned these things, I mean, I can see why you're still the bridge, because where innovation is concerned and where DITES is concerned, and even just technology, a big part, what can be a big part of Anguilla's commerce sector is, for instance, our .ai domains, which are highly sought after. I know recently those went to tender for somebody to sell. I don't remember who won, but looking ahead where those things is concerned, for if anybody that's listening don't know, .ai is a boom because AI is artificial intelligence. Like I can tell you, right, and I've said this on camera before, so I can say it again. I had purchased a .ai domain a couple years ago, probably 10 years ago, and I just had it there sitting. I had something on it. It was Alps.ai, and I got contacted by a company out of China. I purchased it for $100, and they paid me $2,000 for the domain.
Well, that's something that I think all Anguillians should invest in.
Yeah, buy some .ai domains.
Not just that, buy digital real estate.
Yes.
Because when you buy it at $100 and you buy, when you keep abreast with the industry and see where it's going, you can buy names that you think people will be interested in.
Don't buy Ivan.ai. No
one
value.
But yeah, you can purchase digital real estate and then resell it for twice, 10 times, 20 times the amount that you purchase it for.
And it doesn't expire. It's like but for me, that's
an asset.
It's an asset. It's a little bit better for me than the volatility of the stock market with this up and down. You can set your price, and then it was a seamless process. They made contact. We used I can't remember that intermediary house that, and once I received, then they released, and it was seamless.
This may be outside of the sphere of.
But she's the bridge, so it's not really outside.
The bridge. And I do know that the economic development has been moved to the premier, and he has finance and economic development, and Season 2, we'll have him back, and we can speak to that, because there's something that you mentioned just now in terms of that intermediary house that was used, and some of the barriers that exist to doing business within Anguilla and to be able to do those transactions outside of. How does innovation play into that? I know that DITE is really responsible for, like you say, e-government services, but outside of government, just for the people of Anguilla. How does innovation play beyond just government government services?
Well, there is a plan that I have in mind. But this is not the exclusive. This plan is not priced. It is just aspirational, and we have to go through several steps to get to that end game. But to be able to position that department to go beyond just offering government services. But right now, the needs of government are enough to demand all of the work from the department, because they are not just servicing the information technology department. They are doing education, they're doing probation, they're doing MICU, they're doing home affairs, tourism. When we had the portal, they were instrumental in developing the portal as well. So they are already stretched. I wouldn't say thin, but they are stretched. They provide all of government services. And with one of the new initiatives that Minister Kentish Rogers is undergoing right now, which would facilitate some level of e-governance into the school system, they are doing that. So right now we are trying to get government services up to par, but they do here and there offer services outside of government.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any thoughts that some measure of privatization can happen in there? No. Because I can see them. The guys are so talented. I can see them doing business for a lot of companies on Island.
In my mind, the best arrangement for the Department of Innovation would be for it to be almost like a statutory body, where it can be quasi-governmental and offer those private services. Okay. But until then, the ministry can operate in such a way to a certain extent. So my vision is to push that as far as we can go with that.
Push it as far as we can go. Okay. All right. So let's put a pin right here. We like pins. And to push it as far as it can go. Sustainability, fuel, going through the roof, going through the floor. I remember you and I had a conversation off camera somewhere weeks back, and I was talking about an electric vehicle, and he was like, yeah, you can get an electric vehicle and you apply to bring it in, and it's duty free, no GST, duty free, all that good stuff.
That's still in place? That is in place?
Well, we just passed that policy through Executive Council maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So now that would sort of get rid of the application process. But you still have to apply in terms of alerting government system that you are bringing in this vehicle and it's.
But it doesn't go to the house anymore.
But the intention was to move that away from the house. I can't say with certainty at this very moment that is what it is, but that was the intention of the policy.
Okay, nice.
And that was approved.
Would you want to see more electric vehicles in Anguilla?
Definitely.
Why?
Well, I would love to see first maybe more hybrids.
Okay.
And then fully electric. The reason why I say first more hybrid vehicles is because I know that we are in a unique position that when we get storms, we're without electricity for prolonged periods of time. And if we don't have enough areas where you can charge your car and charging stations, then that would be problematic for the persons trying to get.
That's true.
Their vehicles charged.
So didn't think about that.
I didn't think of that, but I have a comeback. So would you want to see more homes off grid, not off grid? Yes, listen, Anglic, not off grid. Would you want to see more homes with solar utilizing solar?
Well, not really. I would love to see Anglic utilizing solar, because I do understand that for you to move off of Anglic or to go off of the grid and be utilizing solar, it means that there are less persons on the grid, which would then put a burden on those who probably can't afford to go off the grid. So in terms of the impact on the whole, that's not necessarily the best way out, because then we'll be leaving those persons who may not be able to afford or cannot prioritize the transition to pay the burden that for all of us.
Okay, I ain't gonna.
I
Go
got
ahead.
a question.
You go ahead. I can get into something that might get a little controversial.
But
No, I'm just saying for
No,
the
for me.
sustainability
Yes, for the-
of it.
right, of-
but
of-
so I would love Anglec to be able to go fully
I
solar,
agree
and
with you.
then
But
yes.
I'll tell you why in a second.
So
Go
right.
ahead.
So I do have a question. When you're saying that for hybrid or fully electric vehicles, you can get those duty free. If I was in a position to be able to bring in, let's say, solar panels, are those also duty free, or are you not encouraging that simply because you don't want persons to leave the grid?
well, I won't say that we are encouraging it for that reasons, but they're not duty free at this moment.
Okay.
At this moment.
At this moment.
At this moment. That was the song that my daughter sang on the phone. I keep hearing it. I just hear her voice whenever anybody say, so I just have to pause.
Okay.
But going back there, solar panels now. I think we're gonna have a unique situation this summer. I don't think people really realize what's happening. It's hotter globally. Anguilla, I said something to somebody today, and I'm gonna say it here. I think Anguilla is gonna snow. Here's why I think Anguilla
So
is
you
gonna
feel
snow.
it's so hot that it must get so cold?
It's so hot in the UK. I think we should be changing. The stick with me. There's yeah. The runway melting up there. You know. I think we can have the flip, but at the backside of that, we got into conversation. Me and a friend of mine. He was like, his concern is that the homes there aren't built for this type of weather, the heat that they're experiencing. He says some homes don't have AC, they have heat, and the windows open on 8th because for cooling and these type of things. Now I'm starting to think we're gonna have a problem here that we might not be considering. I saw Quiz Aurora said that they're opening over the extended summer period. They are on the grid. We know during the summer months when people home burning the AC, especially end of August, the hotels does be closed, so Anglec ain't being drawn on as much. What's gonna happen when the generators now have to be pushing the homes, the hotels, and everybody over this extended period of time? Because you say what we want, and this is just me thinking out loud, November, December is cooler, people aren't, and a lot of people, more people are at work and stuff, so the consumption at home is not the same. Are we in a position, or maybe you can answer it, but are we in a position to manage that demand that we can see over the summer? And would that now magnify the need for Anglec to be going towards renewable energy? Because we can't control fuel price costs. We want everybody on grid and consuming, but what can we maintain?
I think what magnifies the need for Anglec to transition towards solar is the fact that it cannot maintain its current position and company. What's what I'm looking for? Like the operations
yes.
of purchasing fuels.
Right.
Not excessive heat or increased demand,
This
because this will just go up and down. People would have high demand one month, you have low demand the next month, you'd have rising gas. And in the US we're seeing the price of fuel reducing, so maybe we may see it soon on this side, who knows. So these things will be what they are, and the company, I'm assuming, because I'm not the minister for Anglec, and I don't have that level of operational relationship with Anglec, but I'm assuming that they have to respond to these needs.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
But the reality is, regardless of what the change in consumption or the fuel prices, the need for the transition to renewables is very high.
How, realistically speaking, talking about sustainability and environment, we want to see Anglec, everybody in this room, everybody listening, I'm counting on you, Anguilla. Everybody listening wants to see Anglec transform into fully our close renewable energy source. I think we have all the land space we need in Anguilla, come to think of it. Maybe government might not have it, but what's a realistic goal for something like that to happen? 3 years? 5 years?
Well, I've spoken to many companies in the last few months, and the timeline that they have given me would be 12 to 18 months.
That's up?
Yeah, because Anguilla's consumption is that low.
That literally 12 to 18 months.
Yes, but this is not something that, and I think this is an important point to make, this is not a transition that can be driven by government. Anglic is a private company of which the government of Anguilla is the major shareholder, but it's still a private company. So Anglic must also be committed to that vision as well, and do the things that they need to do to become appealing to these companies, and share and put that intention out there within its own means to be able to do. So while government can support it, and that's why the development of the Renewable Energy Department was so important, because we will now be trying to drive those legislative changes to support Anglic's transition whenever they're ready to do so. Okay. And also to support the aspirations of the general public for their understanding and demand for renewables, and to support people's understanding and acceptance of renewables, because there's sometimes misconceptions out there, and having a dedicated department there to push the narrative, to do the work, to understand the impact. Like, one of the things that we are going to embark on is whether or not our ponds can be used for solar panels in the absence of real estate, government-owned real estate. So that is what our department will be looking at, doing that research, doing the environmental impact assessment to see what kind of impact such a initiative will have on the ecosystems of the ponds. So that's the kind of work that we do.
So let me put a plug here, because I know people does take these little sound bites in. Minister Gums Marie is not saying that she doesn't want a marina in the pond. She's saying that we're looking at other ponds and Anguilla.
I said nothing about marinas.
But that's what they're going to put. I just want to give me that part again for the camera. I said nothing.
I said nothing about marinas.
But now that you have.
No, not my ministry. And the bridge is closed on that one.
See, this is where the bridge comes in, because we can't speak, and this is one of the things that I've known about you for some time, and we've had our own private debates, and how do you balance both the environment and tourism, and how do you push one product while not doing damage to the other?
It's impossible, and that's what sustainability is about, where you try to understand the impact on all of the stakeholders, all of the ecosystems, all of the beneficiaries, and then you are able to then say, what costs or what burden can I put on the other, or how can I move forward in a way that doesn't put any burden or reduces the burdens on whichever one that you decide to do in the best possible way, in the most responsible way. So that's what sustainability is. That's why I said, like, I don't know everybody's business in the way that I used to before, but still a bridge, because we are right now we are in an environmental crisis in this country, because the answers that we are looking on rest solely on our ability to involve the environment in our development process. When we look at the cost of electricity, we are looking at the price of food, we're looking at people's abilities to build homes and sustain those homes and build savings and buy shutters, because these are the things that impact us. Buy insurance. So somebody's going to say, well, you were from insurance, but I'm just saying, as a country that is in the hurricane belt, that's an important thing. So when we look at how do we sustain ourselves, how do we feed ourselves, how do we feed our children, and we look at the cost of electricity, we're realizing that that's taken more and more out of us, and we have the aspiration to do other things. So just the ability to have a higher disposable income. That answer lies into how we interact with our environment, and how do we incorporate our environment into our national development process.
So I had an interesting conversation with my son. You gotta talk to the children. You mentioned it over and over on this one. So I told my son that he has to consider the opportunity cost. Right, we were talking about Robux, because that's all the children want.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So I was like, I was like,
wait until the nieces and nephews come for
until
summer.
they can, and I'm like, you gotta consider the opportunity cost. Like, it's like me spending on Robux is gonna take away from something else.
Yes.
So today is Monday. Yeah, we're taping today Monday. Saturday, we had a conversation. He was like, "Yeah, Dad, I want you to consider opportunity cost." He's back with this thing.
Yeah.
I was so impressed I actually listened.
Right.
But I think that's a conversation that has to happen with everybody where energy is concerned. Because what you said right there, I don't think people understand. Like, right now, we need to make a decision where we are going because fossil fuels is killing the world on so many different levels, much as killing your pocket. And as my co-host rightly says, our
Right now our dollars aren't dollaring.
that's it, like point blank, that's it. So
Yes.
what's the opportunity cost involved and people need to look at? Are we going to take everybody coming to the table and saying, Anglic, listen here, this has to be done, let's get it done? Are we going to just dance around it some more? Are we going to wait for more and more homes to say, listen, I'm going to spend the $50,000, $60,000, include that in my cost, decide I'm not going to add an additional room on my house. Grandma, you're going to have to go live in the home, but I need to be off the grid. Like, there's opportunity costs involved, and you said it so clearly. People are making these decisions right now. When you have to consider that your consumption for your fuel, for your electricity bill might be $200, but your fuel surcharge is going to be an additional $300 or whatever the case may be. Like, you need to look at this holistically.
Yeah, because I think the issue that a concern that I have is when people think that this is something that has been imposed on government, by government on the consumers, which it is not. It is just the unfortunate reality of the fact that we don't produce our own fuels and we have to purchase from somewhere else, and there are international occurrences that impact the cost of the fuel that we can't do anything about. Government has literally removed excise, removed taxes, exempted GST, has done all it can to remove the things that it profits from on the cost of fuel, and it still is not enough for the global cost of fuel. And when the global cost of fuel is so high, then it triggers a level of inflation because fuel impacts everything.
Yeah.
And so that is really where we're at. And that's why I said that Angola is in an environmental crisis, because if we can't address ways to handle the cost of fuel, and we can't address ways to manage how we consume, then we won't be able to make any changes. No relief measures, no support government would give would be felt, because there are external pressures that the government literally can't do more, can't remove. So there are a lot of things that my ministry, will be working on. Some of the things, most of the things, all of the things were stuff that I was working on as
do that again. Stop.
Because I'm thinking, I'm like, wait, let's see.
All of the things.
I'm thinking I'm making like a mental note, like what is, and I'm like, everything that I've been working on as Poltech is now being prioritized here. So one of the things that exclusive that we're working on is a decarbonization of the ferry service, so that way we would transform the ferry boats between Angola and St. Martin to be solar powered.
Slow down. Exclusive.
Exclusive.
Yes. So at COP26 last year, I would have met with some representatives from the International Maritime Organization, and would have shared my vision to see decarbonized travel between Angola and St. Martin, because, as you know, this is one of the shortest international routes in the world, and I would just love to see our ability to see shortest and most sustainable. And they were undergoing something similar with ships, like maritime shipping trade. And I was like, well, this is a really small project. If we are able to do it in Angola, we can prove that we can do it anywhere. And shortly after that, while I was in the UK for the Joint Ministerial Council, I had a meeting with the team from the Maritime Coastal Agency. And I said, this is an idea that I have. I don't know if it's possible. And they're like, let me tell you how it's going to be possible. And they're like, check us next year after March. We'll find the money to make it possible.
So, hold on, stop. So you had all this going on in COP, and then the Joint Ministerial Council, you were working.
Of Of course.
No, I have to get it out there that you were working. I'm not being facetious, but I have to get it out there that you were working.
When my country sends me to work, I work.
I like that. I don't know if I like, but she sat on this the last time she was on Progress Report. So is this what has
is this the same thing? Because you got a lot of.
It is the same thing.
Okay,
it's the same thing. What has changed is that this week we have invited. We were sent a nautical engineer by the Maritime Coastal Agency, who's currently meeting with our boat and ferry operators to understand the feasibility of this project. So what has changed now is that we've gone from an idea to see if this idea is feasible, and if it is feasible, we are then in a position to attract the funding that we need.
So the funding is there, we just need to know that it's feasible.
Feasibility, right. And once that is completed, it's something that I intend to carry throughout the region, because sustainable seas in Anguilla is not sustainable seas until the rest of the region has sustainable seas.
Can you that new thing when you on TikTok when you say that again?
So I will be working hopefully with the organization of the Eastern Caribbean states to carry this throughout the region to ensure that our neighboring islands can benefit from this.
Stop right there. I have to do this. I'm talking a lot because the next episode I probably ain't gonna talk too much. I like what you're saying there. Here's why I like what you're saying there. We touched on this the last time.
We did.
About the impact and things that Anguilla is spearheading and the rest of the region is taking note. And I don't think people understand, and there's no disrespect to the audiences, I don't think people understand the impact of some of the decisions that have been made throughout the region. We touched on the here in grooming policy. I had people in Jamaica picking this thing up. When you have 10,000 people viewing it's not on YouTube, viewing a clip on the government's of Anguilla's Facebook page, that's unique hits. When you have over X amount of hundreds of shares and people in Jamaica, government of Jamaica, what's going on?
I actually saw it on Twitter. I think it was the Youth Parliament in Belize who was using it, and I was like, that was amazing, because I didn't know how far. You don't know how far you can travel.
But outside of that, like, I see people jumping on what Barbados has done recently, and I'm like, this sounds familiar.
In fact, right now we are working with another regional country to do something similar in their country. So they were trying to figure out how did we fund it, how did we operate it, how will we manage. So they are trying to do something similar with the provision of cost of living support in the form of payments to their version of ANGLEC, and they're also payments to senior citizens. So
we people paying attention.
Yes.
So now you're telling me that you want to roll out this decarbonized ferry service, not just between Anguilla and St. Martin, but throughout the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. Like that, you know what that will do for us? The cost of travel. Man, you can't get decarbonized planes.
But some of the things that we're looking at, but you're cut it short. So right now,
you need to stop sticking a pit. Let our guests speak.
I'm not saying another word.
So what my vision initially was to incorporate the French and Dutch governments. So that was a bit difficult because of the EU situation.
Yes.
So still though, it is more important than that. And we have gotten buy-in from both of the governments. So it's now the UK, the Dutch, and the French supporting this initiative, which is very unprecedented in the times of post-Brexit. So to have that work done, I'm very excited about where that could lead.
Awesome.
And the team at IMO, because of our EU situation, again, have been very, I would say, very flexible when it comes to finding funds outside of the EU for this project, because it means then that if Anguilla is successful, if our feasibility study says that this is a good idea, if it's commercially feasible, then it is something that they can now, together, we can now carry throughout the region. And the other most exciting thing is that we've gotten 3 battery producers who are interested in this, who are looking to see if they can create smaller batteries for the purpose of ferry transit. And so they'll be creating a smaller battery if this is successful. So we've begun the process, and I'm very, very much excited about this.
Me too. Sorry. I was supposed to talk.
Very, very much excited. I'm very humbled by how one small idea from a 28-year-old wandering through a conference could I'm very happy, proud of my age.
Yes.
Can snowball into something so great and so impactful. So a lot of other countries throughout the region are looking to Angola to see what the results of our feasibility study would be.
That's awesome.
That's excellent. So sustainability. And to my mind, when I hear sustainability, I think of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Angola isn't necessarily party to directly, but through the UK we are signed on to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, we're trying to sign on to the Paris Convention through the UK. That's a negotiation that we're working on right now. I wouldn't say negotiation, but a collaboration with the UK, our UK partners, who understand that our environmental needs are becoming, and sustainability needs are becoming, more and more important to our development concerns and our development aspirations. So they're trying to find a way to carve a way for us to have that special relationship with the conventions that they sign on to, because we're signing on from different points of view.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much where I wanted to go with that. And how much is your new ministry involved in the SDGs and ensuring that by 2030 we are 8 years out, that we are as close to possible of meeting the majority of those goals?
I wish I had that in front of me because there's so much to remember.
Do you want me to pull one that's coming off the top of my head?
No, I don't want to miss. No, the thing is, I don't want to miss it. So there's life underwater, which is one that we are taking very seriously when it comes to our prospective collaboration with the Blue Belt program of the UK. So that is ensuring that we have sustainable oceans, and from that we're looking at zero poverty, no hunger, gender equality, sustainable jobs and sustainable economies. Project alone, right? Okay. So we have prioritized them. Life on land, or whatever the land one is, which is similar to life below water. That is one that we are working on because we don't have any real goals in the agriculture side of it. When I say that, is that we don't have a target to say, okay, by X whatever, we're going to reduce our imports by such and such and such. But that's something that I am working on with the ministry, because I think that is important. Even if we don't get there, but to have a target and a number, a realistic target and a number in mind, even if it's 5%, that's 5% of sustainable jobs, persons in Angola being able to produce its own food. And given the impacts of globalization, we see the heightened need to have that food independence and food security. So we are trying to prioritize that, but first with fisheries, because that one is, I wouldn't say the easiest one, but it's one of the ones that, because we are a big ocean territory, we have more support for than other countries which have an abundance of water and things like that, because we struggle with that on one side. So we're trying to not dig on you. But
I'm glad you went there, because that is where I was going to go. To go next, because one of the SDGs is access to clean and affordable water.
Yeah. Remember, I'm not the Minister of Michael. But
yes, but you are the Minister of Sustainability.
She's the bridge.
And you are the bridge. And so, yes, that I'm very much aware of the SDGs and knowing that is one of them, and sustainability and how it all... The reason you're the bridge is because we recognize that they all play connective roles,
right,
and how we get there. We can't have agriculture without access to water. And so while yes, we know that you now have your own ministry, there must be those linkages, and I just kind of wanted to get an idea as to how high on the priority list all of these play in where they fall.
I think in the conversation of national development, it's difficult to prioritize because what may make good sense to everyone in the room may not make good sense CENTS.
Okay.
Right? So you'd have to be able to balance out what you can do and what you want to do and what is falling apart. So in a couple debates in the House of Assembly a few weeks ago, I would have made mention that it's important for us to not look at the state of Anguilla, look at our aspirations, and look at some of the remedies that we have to use in silos, because they all support each other. When we look at the fact that a lot of our institutions are failing because of decisions made over the years that predates everyone in the room, you have to also look at where do you want to be. And obviously you want to be in a place where your institutions are not failing. Your institutions are not bleeding. They're not to the point where they can no longer operate functionally bankrupt. You don't want that for any of your positions, institutions. So you're in a place where you have high debt, you have institutions that you cannot financially support, you have aspirations, you have limited funds, and you also have an introduction of a new tax. I think it's important then to look at how all of these things gel together to create one picture. But I see very often in national conversation where we look at one thing and say, it's so wrong that we're implementing a new tax, but why don't we have proper structures for XYZ? Or why don't we have better roads in different areas? Or why don't we have green spaces? Or why don't we have a better airport? These are things that taxes ordinarily fund. If it is not that it can fund outright, it goes to funding the debt to get these things. So right now we're in a position in Anguilla where our debt is extremely high.
$500 million. I'm gonna put that every single time. That was our first show.
Yes.
And I still can't forget when the premier basically showed us down to the cents. We were just under $500 million in
Yeah.
That's 12,000 people, because we can't say our population was 15,000 after Alma and everybody migrated.
Well, we have 2022 census going on,
So
we're gonna stick a pin in that.
We're gonna stick a pin in that one, but we just over 10,000 people, $500 million in debt. That doesn't make any sense. To say, I understand, oh, you can't tax a bleeding. I hear all the arguments, but I'm saying at the end of the day, we've made commitments, and not only have we made commitments, we've incurred debt, and they got to be paid. You understand? So, okay, we're gonna chip at it. And from what I am able to see on the inside, and from what I know, we've been making some strides at it. I just had to put that plug there because the conversation is still going on. 24 days into the introduction of GST, yes, there's a lot to work at. There's a lot to do. But maybe if this was done before, water would have been able to pay Anglic.
Well, I think that we could definitely get onto the road of what should have been done before, and definitely, without like throwing blame, I do want to point out if things were done before, just hard decisions on one problem, we wouldn't have been to a point where we have to make multiple hard decisions on multiple problems that predated us. A couple weeks ago, I saw someone share a Facebook post made by a previous minister of Meku saying, oh, well, they were going to shut off water 5 times in the time that I was there, but it was my political prowess that did not allow that to happen. And I'm just like, well, that puts us in a position where we have to now fix it on the back end, where if a couple steps are made...
She's breathing heavy.
No, but I'm not... You see, because I think when we have these conversations, it comes across as you are being political because you are a politician speaking about another politician. And so it is difficult to have those conversations and to be trusted as an objective source because of my position. So I try just to say... I'm not trying to rip apart anybody, but it is these small steps that build a sustainable country.
Yes.
And you cannot go from taking no steps, taking one big step to get to sustainability. Sustainability is something that's built month after month, year after year. And it is sad that it is now, so late into our life we're still a young country, but we're so far on, and we're starting to take those steps to build sustainability in 2022 versus 1975 or 2000, 2010, 2015. We're at this point where we have to now make up for lost time because of politicians taking the route that says, I'm protecting my identity as a politician, but not the country as someone who would have been there to solve them. That is why, no, let me just wrap up the point. That is why in this, because I know that this show is not intended to be completely political, but that is why in my ministry, we are trying to look at the steps that we can take and understand that the conversation is nuanced in the sense that the people who are saying that you cannot tax a dead economy are right. And the people who are saying that this is not the best time for taxes are right. And the people who are saying, but we have bills to pay, we have aspirations to meet, we have needs that we have to fulfill, they are also right. But we're in a position that inaction does not solve any of those arguments. Because it then just, when you don't do anything, it compounds the problems that we are having now. And if you do something, it makes it difficult for the persons who are doing it and the persons who will be done too. But we have to then look at the future in mind. It's very hard to tell somebody right now, yeah, pay those taxes because your future Anguillian self will thank you. It's difficult to sell that aspiration or encourage persons to do so. But we are also in the same breath having to show, well, don't pay those taxes and look at what your future self or your now self is dealing with, because there wasn't any, forward thinking or commitments to future development that was taken in years before us. So we have to have those complicated conversations. The people who are saying that we have to do the taxes now have to understand that, yes, but up to a certain extent. I'm talking to myself. And the people who are saying no taxes now have to understand that if we don't do it now, it's going to be more next day. So we're at this position where years and years and years are saying not now, tomorrow, today, kick it on the road. It created, the snowball effect. The problems just, because right now we're in a position where all our institutions are on life support. And the last institution that we have left is government. Government cannot fail.
You want to go? No,
I just wanted to say, because you got there, and I was saying, so you're saying that you're no longer kicking the can further down the road, because I'm literally holding this and I wanted to flick it, because that is what has been done. We've continuously kicked the can down the road, and I believe in a previous episode when you asked why it is I do what I do, and I said it's because at some point somebody has to say the buck stops with me.
You did.
And this is what I'm hearing from you. At some point we have to say, in order for our future selves to be successful, in order for our future selves to be able to have the institutions that are needed, that we have to say the buck stops here and we have to start to rebuild rather than continuing to let them deteriorate. And some of them are at the point where it's no longer deterioration, it's just
ashes to ashes,
dust to dust.
Let me say this.
One of the things I was saying, and I think that was one of the hardest House debates I've had to do, which was on June 30th.
Yes.
We have to look at our situation as not individuals of a country, but members of a whole. And it is undignified that before Hurricane Irma, we couldn't fix our schools. So we had our children in schools with rat droppings in the roofs. We had our children in schools that was poorly ventilated, leaking when it rains. In just the worst conditions. It's undignified that we had to, when we had an investor give us an MRI machine, we had to go to the UK to change the electricals of that room because the room could not handle the electrical needs of the MRI machine. Nothing is wrong with that. But what is undignified is that we could not pay for that upgrade of that room. When we had American leaving here with 66 passengers, we needed to move 2 electrical poles to increase the amount to 78, I believe, or 75. We could not afford that. It is undignified that we had to go to the UK to then beg for them to put our electrical poles underground. So for it was not something that's so big. We're literally in a position that unless it is to meet the general needs that we have, we couldn't do it. We should not want a country in that way.
No.
Our country have been, people are asking, where are the austerity measures? And I said, do you know that we have been in austerity since 2009?
Mm-hmm.
That we have been cutting. So although our budget says a certain figure, we don't spend that because we can't sustain it.
Right.
But we still are showing that these positions need to be filled, these aspirations need to be met, etc. And then people look at maybe one person in an office that they went into 5 days ago that wasn't doing anything to their mind, and they're saying, well, obviously government don't need people, because I saw Ivan at X office and he wasn't doing anything.
Them to me, Blanchard.
During working hours, you know, something like that. And so we need to understand that we have a country to build. We have a nation to build, I always say that. And we can't do it by playing small or avoiding the severity of the situation that we're in. And I know that politically it is difficult.
Of course.
But that is what you're here for.
Yeah.
You know, there are great parts of this job, like the decarbonization program that I can't stop thinking about.
Oh my God, you go, girl.
And then the other things, like having to explain to people why you campaigned against GSC and I had to bring it in this, you know, within a short time of your time in government. It's difficult conversations that we have to have, but it doesn't mean that the government is any less caring or that we're any less attuned to the needs of the people. It's just that you have to balance, but you have to balance whether you're going to make the political decision for yourself or you're going to make the patriotic decision for your country. And on that, you know, on that note, I would always choose the latter.
Okay. You said something earlier, right? And I have to go back to it. Because you went on to define what sustainability is. And it rests on the back of my mind all the time when I have these conversations, when I hear people, when I see people moving about now, even in our daily lives working, when the Premier coined Growing Sustainably Together as the acronym for GST. And that's where we're at, because you touched on something, and I'm not going back to the former minister from Maiku or whatever the case may be, but that was a conversation that we had recently. And I think people fail to understand or to realize what the chairman has said, what you have said as a member of the board, even the minister now, even the former CEO. We are this touting of 24/7 water and this pushing a system to a point where you caused it to break, and break to the point there's no more water for you to drink, Aniva. You caused it to break to the point, like, no, for real, you caused it to break to the point where generations upon generations are impacted, where now you have places in Angola that don't have no water at all. You understand? I saw the system of government in a similar fashion. I saw a number of things being pushed to the limit where they are broken, some beyond repair, some you saying a lot of our institutions are on life support right now, and we're saying ashes to ashes, dust to dust, because a lot of them is gonna require resurrection of a different nature to have them to come back. And that's the reality. You I don't want people to miss what you said. Sustainability is not the big leaps. It's the continuous steps over and over in the right direction. It's the commitment to say, I might not get 2 today, but if I get 1, that's good. If I make it halfway down the road instead of around the corner, at least I am a lot further than I was yesterday or earlier. With every step that we are making, is growing sustainably together.
Sustainability, to quote a book that I read recently, is to plant a tree that you won't stand in the shade of. And that's what we need to do as a country. We need to make those sacrifices for the people who will come after us, because right now we are standing and living the consequence of not making sacrifices for generations.
That's a very sobering thought. I mean, we're getting ready to wrap up, and I won't take up much more of the time. We've touched on innovation, we've touched on sustainability, we've touched a bit on environment. But you're still the bridge.
Still am.
You touched on something a while ago. We were not in a position to have our kids in schools that weren't leaking, had ray mice and rat feces falling from the roofs. But now we are getting ready to unroll a school feeding program. You know, when people talk about cost of living, you know, that's major.
Why are you giving away season 2?
Also, this is not nothing. It's nothing to do with me. So I
know it's nothing to do with you, but I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere with
right.
this. I'm going somewhere with this.
Speed up that train.
Speed up the train. Right? We're getting ready to go to tender based on what Minister Hughes said for our terminal building. You know, he said something that blew my mind. I'm pulling everything from the past episodes.
The bridge.
The bridge. We got a new Valley Main Road.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new terminal that was lost. We were down there operating out of the Dolphin Lagoon. We got American Airlines. We got our airport resurface. He told all these things. We are building a new dialysis unit. We have an MRI machine. We have a school feeding program about to start. We're looking at so many different things. I think it's a lot of movement. I think it's a lot of great things. But do we honestly as a people understand the impact and what we are experiencing right now? Like, I would want to see something. And I want you to take this back to cabinet.
Ivan always wants something.
I want something.
Take a note.
Take a note. I need to see water off the grid.
You mean like renewables?
Yeah.
Working on it.
You're working on it?
Yeah.
How close are you working on it? Like really, really close?
As in, are you going to get it like tomorrow?
No, maybe 6 months.
The meeting is tomorrow. Let's see.
Exclusive!
No, that is not necessarily a commitment to get water off the grid.
No, but that's to look at it.
It is looking at what we can do to support them. But this obviously would not be a short-term solution.
That's my thing. That's what I wanted to hear.
Water is necessary. We will do what we can to support the growth and maintain water in a good position. Well, to put water in a good position, to be able to maintain itself. But at the end of the day, they are the quick fixes to hold, you know, when the dam breaks, you know, hold it together. But then there are the long-term decisions that you make. So right now, my ministry is focused on the long-term decisions that we'll be making to support water if we have the ability. Because right now, we have to, again I said, sense and sense. We are looking at a possible grant to see if there's an ability to get grant funding for water. So it's not necessarily something that we can say will come necessarily if it is something that's guaranteed. But we have to make the sacrifices and be a bit bold in our ambitions and see what's out there in the absence of funds here.
Okay, and I say that not knowing that this meeting was happening. I'm just thinking that I can't shake certain things like the $500 million, and then the chairman for water in chorus when I asked them what's going to fix water outside of money. You said it too. You must know the song.
That's it.
You must know the song.
Because the thing is, if you have this empty bottle and you're like, I'm going to fill this bottle and this is the thing I'm going to do with water, and you have the procedure of filling it previously was manually taking buckets and throwing it in, and you are paying those persons $50 a day. And you're saying, I want this to be filled quicker, I want it to be more consistent because these persons need breaks, they need to go, they have shifts, whatever it is. I'm going to get it quicker and I'm going to get it done that way. You get it done that way, but the cost of throwing the water now is not $50 a day for the 4 persons, it's let's say $2,000 a day. You cannot sell water at the same rate that you're doing before. Right?
Why are you looking at me like that?
No, you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, you have to make those sacrifices. So we have to be honest with the cost of development, because sometimes the UK, my colleagues in the UK had this conversation with me because I was like, there's some conventions that we would like to sign up on, and they said, the reality is that you cannot afford those conventions.
Oh, wow.
Not because of the country being in such a difficult position, but it's because if we were to piggyback on the UK's commitment, we can't afford the commitments that they would have made. So now I said, well, you need to then carve out a space for us in these commitments so that we can sign on to the things that we can do, so that we can have the support also to get it done. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. So right now, that goes right back to here. When you sign on to commitments, you have to be sure that you can afford those commitments.
Right.
And then you can then say, okay, this is how it's done. And this goes back to the heart of sustainability. If it is that 2 or 3 years later after your decision to get something done, the entity cannot afford it, that was not a sustainable decision.
Oh, be careful.
No, but that is those are the conversations that we need to have.
That have to happen.
Because
but people don't want to have those conversations.
Just the way a bill don't show up overnight, a company that was sound and strong can't fall overnight, right?
I agree
so
with you.
we need to have those conversations because I fear that we are at risk of simplifying our problems.
And they're not simple.
And when we look for the solutions, we will believe that the solutions are equally as simple, and they're not.
They're not.
And so what I have always said is that as a politician, I want to arm future politicians with the necessary information that they need to make proper statements and commitments, and also to build their manifestos or everything. Because I mean, yes, we are in competition, but we're in the competition for the same country. So if I were to lose, I need you to do good. Otherwise, I as an Anguillan would lose as well.
Yeah.
So my time in politics, the way how I look at politics is not that while I am here, all the information surrounding our problems, all the information surrounding our solutions are mine to keep to having to hold. They're not mine. I'm just a custodian.
Well, you quoting your vows.
Right? You don't have lifelong vows, right? So it's important that as a custodian, I'm honest with people who are interested in the development of Anguilla, Anguillians who may just get a chance to listen to this, Anguillians who get a chance to speak about things like this, Anguillians who would like to aspire to be in office, have an understanding of our problems, because we are all part of the solution.
That's it.
And the major part of the solution, in my opinion, is honesty about where we are at.
Yeah.
So I will never sugarcoat our problems or our successes.
You're not the baker. Sugarcoat.
because we have to understand that our country is in a very difficult position, but the task is not insurmountable.
No.
The mountain is not insurmountable. We're not too weak to climb, but we have to have the vision in mind.
Ooh, I like that.
And on that note, I had questions.
Go ahead.
But on that note, this has been another great episode. But seriously, Minister Gums Marie, thank you so much for coming in and speaking with us. I look forward to having you back on season 2 because I will table those questions. Until then, I'll give you a little sneak peek. I want to hear where we're going with agriculture. And you spoke a lot about continuity, and there were some projects and things that I know that was underway by the former minister. And so I would like to hear what those continuity plans are and how we continue to grow sustainably together, not just with GST, because I know that is the plug for GST, growing sustainably together, but in all of our sectors and how we get there. So thank you for being here, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in.
Thank you, listeners.
This has been another
one more excellent episode of Progress Report.
We look forward to having you on the next episode, which Ivan will be our last episode of the season.
Yeah.
We'll take a 1-week break and then we'll be back with brand new episodes. So stay tuned. We have one more episode. And
want to tell them who's going to be on this episode?
No, let's keep it as a surprise.
Surprise!
I just want to register my disappointment that I'm not the last person.
Is that what you were doing to us?
Progress Report.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening.